Hi everyone, welcome back. Weekly market outlook today for the upcoming next week. It's the 20th of July. Holy moly, what a Friday. CrowdStrike update failed. Microsoft computers crashing down. Blue screen, actually without them in most cases, as we understand, not able to restart. So some major disruptions with equity markets actually as well giving somehow way. And we shall look into these. We shall also look into gold, silver, and the crypto market, which seems to be roaring back to higher price levels. So welcome back to our market outlook here and potential insights into market motivation. What's brewing in markets? Probably the update, the CrowdStrike update, the biggest issue. And when looking at the headlines here, the Wall Street Journal also reporting, despite obviously the big story in Russia, sentenced to 16 years for wrongdoing. That aside, the big outage obviously is something which could weigh negatively again on the tech sector. We have had basically the tech sector, the Nasdaq, already kind of in, well, say at least some tumbling version of negative market momentum. These issues could add up further. CrowdStrike being one of the bigger companies for cyber security, obviously losing steam up from down from 370 something here down towards the next technical support level. The market had resumed downside motivation nearly towards the moving average. We have further support in this market environment, support here which could cause upside motivation to follow. If we now look at the long-term chart, we also see previous resistance at around the 300 US dollar zone might now be the interesting level to basically wait for potential entry opportunities. Technically, we saw that this market was already in overbought territory. And again, that's something which based on the recent tech sector or the recent rotation trade basically might support bearish buyers here in markets. Another one, obviously, kind of Microsoft being impacted as well. We see there's a potential resistance area. There's a potential pin bar candlestick pattern. Again, monthly chart still takes quite a bit of a time, basically on the 20th. So more than a week to go. But when we look at the recent trend, we can observe that the market is still well within the uptrend. Yeah, so this technical pattern here and Microsoft's candlesticks suggest that the market momentum might still kind of unfold further positivity here. The next level of support seemingly to do with the 365 software, which is why the market really kind of got into some trouble here. 430 is the price level, but looking at it from the basic for the basic situation happening on Friday, we saw that prices were already kind of making up for the recent negative downtrend momentum. So Microsoft, despite it was Microsoft software, but CrowdStrike seemingly deploying software updates, which was the case. Some experts said the issue started in Australia, where usually rolled out, where updates are being rolled out from Australia, Japan towards the Singaporean Asian part, further towards Europe and the US, based on market or daytime local zones. The upside right now might kind of continue rather in Microsoft than for CrowdStrike, which has seen the biggest negative price sentiment. Economic calendar in this upcoming week, suggesting on Wednesday there is information kicking in. We got PMI Purchasing Manager Index data that could move markets somewhat. However, they're not of biggest information, of biggest input for markets. Purchasing Manager Index as well in the UK might be interesting. The manufacturing sector 50 or say nearly 51 expected. The services PMI at higher levels 52. And remember that the inflationary data in the UK lowering down towards a potential 2% price target. The services sector, though, being like in many other cases in many other countries at elevated levels, basically, and then the mix of the two making up for potential decision making for the Bank of England and other central banks. In this case here, we can see and focus maybe this set of data might give us a slight amount of information and input. So we shall see how the market will go on that front. Let's look back a little bit before we go to the Bank of Canada towards further potential information here, what we might get from markets. And let's move towards the equities market for a second. The S&P 500, that's on the daily chart here, has basically really resumed downside. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the markets went down towards the next technical resistance pattern. This part here looks like the market is finding some strong resistance zone. Technically, the market kind of offered last week a basic bearish turnaround candlestick up, and then a bigger candlestick to the upside, to the downside, basically higher high, lower low, engulfing candlestick, telling us the pressure to the downside here might actually kind of set the tone for the upcoming couple of trading days or weeks at least to focus on. Looking at the monthly chart, well, again, it's not finished. The candlesticks are still, or that candlestick is still not kind of hammered in stone yet, but it looks there could be further pressure here with market sentiment being quite negative. We have two little selling positions here in this trading account, so that might actually kind of offer us to add another position. The idea basically to sell into this rally as the market moves higher might kind of be something fruitful if the trend is going to basically weaken again as expected. And then furthermore, since we said tech sector here last week, or this week on Friday, the downtrend in Nasdaq kind of offering even further bearish sentiment. Again, another beautiful pin bar candlestick, a couple of trading days still to go, and the market might still resume upside motivation. Yet nothing is over, but at the moment it looks like the sentiment is going to potentially at least continue. Amid this recent big rotation, right, we saw the S&P slightly down. The Nasdaq, let's start with the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq lower, the S&P slightly lower, and the Dow Jones and the DAX was actually also slightly higher. However, now we can observe that the recent positivity looking at the Dow Jones index has been basically changed. The direction, again, back to lower price levels. The weekly chart also magic, offering us a strong reversal pattern, and now we get markets pretty much trading into similar direction. They all might offer negative price sentiment after the recent attack or the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. I watched the recent was it a press conference? No, it was him in front of the National Congress, and well, welcome him. He is, at least as it looks like for now, potentially being the next president of the US, previously running this show already, Make America Great Again. Well, now he tries to do Make America Great Again, which anyways, he had, in a way, to me personally, failed doing, but is now trying to resume the same story. Nothing much needed here for further bearishness. It's actually just a potentially matter of a couple of pips here, or say dollars, or say pressure in this market. Psychological 40,000 level is just a stone throw away. How do you say that here? It's around the corner basically, and the negative sentiment, Dow Jones, we said the index as well, had been falling again on Friday this week, offering again some the bearishness here, which now it looks like, and there we go, the market is just and was in a kind of rising trend, a flag we would call it, right? Is this a bull flag or a bear flag? It looks like the market might end in like bearish sentiment right now, since this sideways pattern, and we can just copy this and put a parallel trend line there, and then see, hey, not too much needed for this market to trend to the downside motivation as well in the DAX. And well, what's happening in Europe? The situation economically not really being extremely positive as well. So might be that further negativity could follow as well. So there we go. Stock markets globally, the Russell 2000 was early on in the week as well, gearing up strong momentum. So downside motivation might be the case. All that, and let's move to the FX, the currency market, with strength in the greenback. The US dollar gearing up momentum, the euro lower, the pound obviously turning around as well. Let's start with the euro. Basically here the euro looks set to weaken again further. Again, the market had shown strong possibility last week, because it's the outlook for next week here at this resistance zone. The market showed it's not keen on rising beyond a potential trending and impulsive resistance area 110, the psychological resistance zone. We are currently trading at its weekend, obviously we are trading below 109, so one figure away. The market might actually weaken again somehow further, as it looks like we got this pin bar candlestick offering potential negative price sentiment. That's the wrong side, but oops, let me move this here towards the current price action. We can see the market might actually start to weaken further, and further weakness here might be seen. The market could follow up, and now we go towards the 50 moving average. Depending on how the 50 moving average goes, a downside motivation could follow, depending on how the trend lines, oops, that's a bit of a bend in the trend line here, how the trend lines go. But again, we have several levels. The next figures here we can see, and we can check whether the market sentiment basically will resume the downside motivation and market momentum at the moment, at least looking kind of quite negative here in most of the pairs. The euro weak, the pound as well weak. Let's move towards the Australian dollar, as this gives us potentially at least further insights in regards to what we could expect with stock markets. Australian weaker, stock markets quite often, as it's a risk on currency here, especially against the US dollar, the greenback also showing negativity here, and the market has given us as well a strong bearish reversal. Again, remember, right, we had the bullish candlestick, another bullish candlestick here in the Australian dollar, and then we have a big candlestick which actually engulfing candle, the two candlesticks alone, right? So not quite higher and perfect, but like this one was the high point, this was the low point, and this market here is now well on track, as it looks like, to retest and we mentioned this last week as well, to potentially retest the breakout zone. The Australian dollar could hence weaken again further. A weaker Australian dollar obviously might open doors for downside market motivation in equities, as we have again all the equity markets, or say the indices at least for now, being quite bearish and offering downside motivation. The Bitcoin and crypto market kind of being on the side, which is pretty much interesting. We had the weekly outlook here last week where we said if certain levels can be cleared, and that's especially true for altcoins, we can see maybe that the cryptos will increase in value again. And this seems to be the case. Positivity for stock markets, not much. Positive momentum in Bitcoin, and well, it's trading over the weekend, right? Markets are open. We can observe this market here having broken out of this important resistance area. We had the support zone here. There's the support here. This area being quite interesting. We had the market breaking beyond, that's the 50 moving average recently here, and then we had a bit of a bend, and the market looked like, well, is it going to weaken again further? Well, it didn't, but basically the market is just basically now offering upside motivation based on the recent breakout zone. So we might be on track towards the 70,000 psychological next resistance area, as important zones had been broken, and these important zones can be seen as well on the weekly chart. We didn't even go as far as the basic 50 moving average. We went beyond the 10 moving average, just to name those ones. But now the monthly chart offering the 10 moving average acted as a strong support, the market breaking off to the races here again above the 70,000 zone. Further market motivation could be seen, and that's again the same for most of the tokens. We have as well from the altcoins side here, Ether positive. XRP is actually and has been rocking the show. And we said last week, if the 50 moving average can be cleared, upside could continue. Well done. That's happening on the monthly chart. We observe that the strong support level holding steady, the 50 moving average in between basically these areas, if it's not being broken, could unleash further positivity. And Litecoin currently on the daily chart fighting with the 50 moving average, as it oftentimes has quite a bit of memory, this chart here. We can observe now the weekly up and running, and the monthly again also offering a potential strong support based on this slight rising trend line. We might now see further motivation, further positivity towards the 50 moving average, towards the next high points here, and then we can move from one area to the other, offering, or this market potentially offering next resistance zones or next positive momentum here towards the next higher price points, which at least some of them could be kind of quite interesting. We had seen these markets rocking to the upside, a kind of really strong motivation here, strong positive price gains were unleashed. And why not? Is the same story happening as well at the moment. Might depend on the dollar. Currently, as we said, the US dollar starting to resume. Stronger dollar might actually cause these markets to weaken. However, the altcoins in particular seem to be a bit reluctant, and they seem to be rather on the positive edge and the positive side here, as the market motivation is remaining positive. Looking at the dollar index, which gives us potential insights here, we can see the market is about to flip back towards the 50 moving average. That's something we could see. Positivity might be the case for the greenback. And by the way, I forgot to mention one thing. BlackRock's information over the recent few trading days were that positivity, or say high volumes for their spot ETFs, Bitcoin ETFs, were also adding and remaining positive. So if we have prices into the up or to the downside with high volume, this might actually add towards such moves. So the positive sentiment might actually occur. That aside now, dollar index, again, looking kind of that the greenback is resuming market motivation. The Japanese yen, kind of really recently forgotten, but it might get back towards some sort of slight safe haven status, meaning equities kind of falter, the Japanese yen offering potential positive sentiment, and the US dollar is offering some positive sentiment as well. So the greenback gearing up steam, the dollar against the JPY also starting to to move to the upside. At the moment, the market could look like it's moving to higher levels. That's not only true for the US dollar against the Japanese yen, right on top of the 50 moving average. Also the euro is gearing up steam. So upside motivation could be seen as long as at least the support level is not being broken, right? So right on top of this zone, the market might break the high points and gear up momentum towards upside levels. Talking last but not least about precious metals, we see the same story, and now we come back to the US dollar, stronger dollar, pulling precious metals maybe to the downside. Recently, we had seen that these pin bar candles were basically offering strong bearish market potential. And now this week, the market went to the upside and looked like to me as well, hey, are we going to rock and move through the roof? Indeed, we first of all looked like this. Now the market is weaker again, falling back. So we might respect this area here at the moment. And yes, the market might be just ripe for a correction back towards the lower price level and maybe even lower zones here. So upside momentum, downside momentum, of course, at first, and then furthermore, upside momentum might occur at later price levels. So we could actually add up also the 50 and the 10 moving average, the 10 being in orange color here, slightly difficult to view and see the zone and the 50 moving average down there, right? Whether the market is going to weaken that much, we shall see. The dollar strength obviously helping negative price sentiment as we speak. Silver clearer, even looking bearish, and this is something which might offer downside motivation, at least for now. However, and that's now the interesting part, we shall see on how the previous resistance on the left, right, and now support on the right might add up positivity here. If the dollar doesn't appreciate too much, this market zone might actually add as a nice layer of support. If not, next zones could be taken fast. Remember, in particular, options trading, my playing field back in the days, the volatility in silver, implied volatility in the silver market, extremely high. So this market can move as we saw it in the past year. And by the way, we traded this here, the breakout. Now we could see that the market fast and quickly might even move towards lower zones as well, as the market momentum is going to potentially suggest. Guys, that's the outlook for the week. I forgot to mention one thing. The Bank of Canada on Wednesday is coming up with the interest rate decision. After recent basic downgrade or lowering interest rates, there's no change being expected in June, I believe it was, the recent adjustment in interest rates. The Canadian dollar being quite soft, the oil price at high levels as well correcting as we observe currently. So that is likely going to give us further volatility in markets. Whether the Canadian dollar, the loonie as it's called, can appreciate again might be questionable here, but we shall see and update you next week with our first input. Take care, happy trading, happy weekend, and see you soon. Ta-ta.